Here we're going to look at using the Sketcher Profiler tool. Okay, let's jump into Catia and take a look at it. Okay, here in Catia, let's select Sketch and pick any sketch plane. Okay. Now we have our profile icon over here. And when we select the profile icon, you'll notice that in our Sketcher's toolbar, watch what happens there. We have some options that fly out, and including the parameter input boxes, there are some other options here. And of course, those change depending on which tool you select. Okay, so I'm going to leave this. Normally we dock it up here. I'm going to leave it down because when we use the profiler, I really want you to see what's going on here. Okay, let's create our first profile with the left mouse button. Tap, 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 double tap. Oops, double tap. There you go. Okay. So now we've created our first profile. If we tap out with our left mouse button to clear our selection, this is our first profile. It's an open profile. Let's delete that. Let's create another profile. Tap, left mouse button, tap, left mouse button, tap, tap. And this time I'll select my starting point as my closing point. See the little circle that gets closed there when I do that? There you go, and I'll tap. Now because I'm selecting the end point and the beginning point to be the same, profiler closes automatically and we have a closed profile. Okay. Now let's delete that. Let's do profiler again. This time I'm going to turn off my snap to point option so that now the grid's not making me snap so much. So now I can do a tap, and as soon as I get horizontal it turns blue. And I tap again. Now as soon as I turn vertical, it turns blue. Now I'm going to come up here and turn on my geometric constraint icon. And now when it gets horizontal, it turns blue, but notice I got an H there. And when it goes vertical, I got a V. And double tap. There you go. So having these icons on or off can also affect your profiler. Okay, let's delete this. I like to leave my geometric constraints on. Tap, tap. Oops, what happened there? So I'm going to hit Control Z to back up. And now I'm going to show you that instead of tapping, if you press and not release your left mouse button and drag away, it puts you into arc mode. I call that a sloppy tap. Tap, and then if I press and drag away for a sloppy tap, it throws me into arc mode. Now notice the arc mode is tangent arc mode. If I pick this arc mode, now I'm in an arc mode that allows me to create arcs that aren't necessarily tangent. Okay, and double tap. Okay. Now let's do this again. And let's keep in mind that we already have our geometric constraints on. So watch what happens here. Tap, make it horizontal, sloppy drag. It puts me into arc mode. Let's try to get this right there as horizontal, vertical. Now notice it made a tangent constraint there because I was on the tangent button. Now I'm going to, oh, look at there. There's a tangent again. But I'm not blue. Let's see if Let's see it's not quite getting vertical. Sloppy tap, and then tap, and double tap. Okay? Now this one didn't pick up vertical, and this one didn't pick up horizontal, but I could add those in later. Right-click Object, Vertical. Okay? But it picked up some tangencies. If I do the same thing without the geometric constraints on, let's delete this one. Okay. Tap, press and drag, or the sloppy tap as we call it, and then tap. And then notice it's picking up the tangency there. But now it's not going to create it because my icon at the top is not on. So I'm going to press and release, drag, and then tap, and then tap. Okay, turn it off. Okay, so now this looks the same, but these are not constrained to be tangent anymore. and neither is this one. So it's kind of nice if you have geometric constraints on it. Keeps things in line. Okay. Now let's take a look at a few more of the options. So I'm right now in linear mode or line mode. If I tap, tap. Now instead of doing a sloppy tap, or the press and drag tap, I can actually come up here now and force it into arc mode just by doing that. Okay. Okay. And then I can force it into this arc mode by doing this. Okay. So you can draw some pretty interesting shapes this way. Now I will say this, Profiler is a pretty cool tool, but a lot of times I like to do a lot of just my basic shape in Profiler without a lot of corners and circles. Okay, and I'll show you how we do that. For instance, let's say I use the Profiler to do a basic shape. Let me turn on my geometric constraints. Instead of trying to do the arcs up here on these corners, I can always come back after the fact and double click my corner icon and put a corner in there, and put a corner in here, and then it's not so hard for me to try to make sure I'm picking up my tangencies. So I can do this after the fact, sometimes faster than you can actually do it with the Profiler. Okay? So now we've covered most of the options of the Profiler. If you want your point to be at a specific spot, you can use the parameter inputs here, but I find that in the Profiler, very few people actually do that. Okay? And then if we exit Sketcher, here's our nice profile, and we can make a pad out of this. Now, one of the things I'll point out, I'll say OK, and then I'm going to unhide that sketch, is that some of these, I'll call them fillets, but really these are corners put in with a corner command in the sketch. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put a fillet in with the solid dress-up feature called fillet. I'll put one in there and one in there and say OK. Now, we have another video on that discusses when a corner should be inside the sketch and when it should be outside on the solid, and that's a different topic. So look for that video.